The Karthian Empire ruled half the known galaxy. For over 2,000 years, no enemy had ever dared to challenge them. Their fleets filled the stars, their cities shone across 10,000 worlds, and their enemies had long been reduced to dust and memory. To the Zyrans, power was everything. And laughter was their favorite weapon against those who were weak. On a quiet night in the Imperial Command Spire, Grand Admiral Vorex stood before the star map. Hundreds of glowing red dots marked the Empire's fleets. He was bored. Peace to the Zyrans meant no one left to crush. Then a small alert blinked on the screen, a tiny blue dot entering Sector 19. The Admiral frowned. "What is that?" A young officer checked the readings. "A single ship, sir. Small size. Human design." Vorex raised one brow. "Human? Impossible. Their colonies were destroyed decades ago." "Yes, sir," the officer said nervously. "But the signal matches human technology." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then one of the commanders laughed. "A human ship alone? Perhaps a drifting cargo vessel, or some forgotten relic from their failed war." Laughter spread around the room. Even the Admiral smiled. "Humans," Vorex said, shaking his head. "They always believed they could stand against the Empire. And yet their worlds burn in our archives." He waved a hand. "Open a channel. Let's hear what this ghost of a species has to say." A static-filled voice came through the speakers. "Calm, steady, and human. This is the Terran ship Valkyrie. You are entering restricted space. Stand down." The room burst into laughter again. "Stand down," one captain repeated, wiping tears from his eyes. "Do they know who they're talking to?" Vorex leaned forward. "Terran ship Valkyrie, this is Grand Admiral Vorex of the Zyran Empire. You are alone in our territory. Identify your purpose before we erase you." The reply came a moment later, quiet but firm. "You attacked our colonies. You killed our people. We remember." Vorex frowned. Bold words from a single ship. He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot. Show them the power of the Empire." A pulse cannon charged. A beam of golden light shot through space, cutting toward the small human vessel. And then it vanished. The beam simply disappeared halfway to the target, as if the universe had swallowed it whole. The bridge went silent. "Report," Vorex demanded. "Energy field distortion," the technician stammered. "The beam didn't hit anything, it just stopped existing." "Impossible," Vorex hissed. "Fire again!" Another shot. Another vanish. Then for 3 long seconds, every screen, every light, every sensor across the Zyran command fleet went completely dark. When the lights returned, the Valkyrie was no longer several million kilometers away. It was right in front of them. The ship was small, barely the size of a destroyer, but it looked wrong. Its black hull seemed to swallow light, as if space itself bent around it. No engine glow, no heat signature, no visible weapons. Yet somehow every Zyran officer on the bridge felt... "Watched. Scan it," Vorex ordered. "We can't," the sensor chief said quietly. "It's blocking all signals. I've never seen anything like this." Then the human voice came again, calm and cold. "You had your chance. You shouldn't have laughed." Before anyone could react, the Valkyrie emitted a faint blue pulse. Every Zyran ship in the immediate area lost power for an instant. Engines, shields, weapons, everything dead. When power returned, the Valkyrie had not moved. But one of the escort frigates was gone. Not destroyed, gone, completely erased from existence. Panic filled the command deck. "What happened to the Kareth?" Vorex shouted. "No debris, no explosion," replied the officer. "It's as if it never existed." The Admiral stared at the view screen. "How can a human ship do this?" No one answered. The Valkyrie hovered silently before them, its dark hull reflecting nothing, its outline rippling like a shadow in water. Then the voice came again. "This is your first and final warning. Leave this sector and never return." Vorex clenched his fists. Rage burned in his eyes. They dare threaten the Empire? He turned to his crew. "Prepare the fleet. If they want war..." The transmission cut him off. "No, you already have it." The bridge shook as the Valkyrie vanished in a flash of white light. No warp trail, no signature, just gone. In its place, it left silence and fear. For the first time in centuries, the Zyran Empire felt something they had long forgotten. They felt afraid. The Zyran Empire had not known fear for generations. They had burned worlds, conquered species, and erased names from history. But now, A single human ship had made their mighty fleet tremble. Grand Admiral Vorex stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Dominion's wrath. His claws tapped the metal railing as he stared at the black space where the human ship had vanished. "Status," he barked. "All systems back online, sir," said the technician. "But the Karth is gone. No readings, no trace. Not even its shadow remains." Vorex's jaw tightened. "Impossible. Nothing disappears without a trace." The science officer looked pale. "Sir, the energy readings, they don't match anything in our database. It's as if that human ship is bending reality itself." Vorex turned slowly. "Are you saying humans created a god weapon?" The officer swallowed hard. "I don't know, sir. But whatever it is, our weapons are useless." The Admiral's voice lowered to a growl. "Send for reinforcements. I want this Valkyrie surrounded and destroyed." Across the sector, hundreds of ships answered the call. Battle cruisers, destroyers, and carriers jumped into formation, forming a ring of light and fire around the small human ship that had reappeared near a dying moon. Vorex watched from his command deck as his fleet prepared for battle. "Target the human ship," he ordered. "Full power." But before they could fire, the Valkyrie moved, not fast, not slow, but smoothly. It glided through space like a shadow, ignoring gravity, ignoring inertia. It stopped right in the center of the fleet. "All ships, fire!" Vorex roared. Thousands of plasma bolts and missiles shot forward, a storm of energy that could level a planet. The explosions lit up space, blindingly bright. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, untouched. A silence deeper than space filled the bridge. "Sir," whispered the weapons officer, "our sensors say all our attacks were redirected." The energy just disappeared. Vorex felt his throat tighten. "Redirected where?" The officer looked at him, eyes wide with terror. "Everywhere." At that moment, half the Ziran fleet flickered and then vanished just as the Karth had. No explosion, no sound, just gone. The surviving ships broke formation, confusion spreading like wildfire. Pilots shouted over the comms. Some screamed. Some prayed. Others simply turned and ran. Vorex slammed his fist on the console. "Hold the line. It's just one ship." But deep inside, even he didn't believe that anymore. Meanwhile, inside the Valkyrie, Captain Elias Reyes watched silently. His crew moved calmly, their faces lit by the glow of strange, shifting light. "Enemy fleet reduced by 47%, said Lieutenant Mara. "They still refuse to retreat." Reyes nodded slowly. "Then they haven't learned." Mara hesitated. "Sir, we could end it now." Reyes's eyes narrowed. "Not yet." He looked at the screen, the hundreds of red blips that were still trying to surround them. "They need to understand. Fear is the only thing the Empire respects." He tapped a control on his armrest. A low hum filled the ship. The Valkyrie began to glow faintly blue. On the Dominion's wrath, alarms screamed. "Sir, their energy levels are off the charts," cried an officer. "They're charging something." Vorex shouted, "All ships retreat! Retreat now!" But it was too late. A sphere of light expanded from the Valkyrie, moving silently through space. Anything it touched vanished. Ships, debris, even the moon nearby. Within seconds, only the flagship and a handful of distant cruisers remained. Vorex stared at the screen, breathing heavily. "What? What kind of weapon is that?" he whispered. No one answered. The comms were dead. Then a transmission came through, calm and human. "You took our worlds. You took our families. This is justice," Vorex shouted into the microphone. "You're a murderer. You think one ship can defeat an empire?" The voice replied, steady as stone. "Not one ship. One idea." The transmission cut off. The Valkyrie turned away and vanished into the dark. Hours later, Vorex sat alone in the silent command room. Reports came in from other sectors. Strange readings, sensor blackouts, missing fleets. The name Valkyrie was spreading like a ghost story. Some said it was one ship. Others said it was a weapon built by the last human survivors. A few whispered that it wasn't a ship at all, Pine, but a curse. Vorex looked out into space, his claws trembling. For the first time in his long, victorious career, the Grand Admiral understood what it meant to be prey. He whispered to himself, "One human ship." And we laughed. He closed his eyes. We should not have laughed. The Valkyrie drifted through the dark sea of stars, silent and alone. No lights blinked on its surface. No engines burned behind it. It moved like a ghost, carried by something unseen and something beyond normal physics. Inside the ship, everything was calm. The crew worked quietly, their faces pale in the soft blue light of the control screens. Captain Elias Reyes sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the data streams floating in front of him. "Status report," he said softly. Lieutenant Mara looked up. "Energy core stable. Quantum field holding at 98%. The enemy fleets are falling back." Reyes nodded slowly. "And the signal?" She hesitated. "No reply from command, sir. We may be the last human ship still out here." A long silence filled the bridge. The sound of distant hums, the voice of the ship itself, echoed through the air. Reyes closed his eyes. The last human ship. He remembered Earth, the cities glowing in the night, the laughter, the oceans, the songs. All gone now, burned under the fire of the Designation Empire. Humanity had begged for peace. The Empire gave them ashes. Now Valkyrie was the answer. 30 years earlier, the last human scientists had built Project Helios, a secret research program hidden under Mars's surface. They wanted to create something that could protect them when all else failed. It wasn't a weapon of destruction, not at first. It was a gravity field generator, able to fold space around matter. But after the fall of the colonies, the scientists turned it into something far darker. A void engine. A device that could erase energy itself. They said it could make a black hole blink. Only one ship ever carried it. The Valkyrie Reyes was there when they launched it. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't even a soldier anymore. He was just the last captain of a dying species given one order. Make them remember who we were. Back on the Zyran homeworld, panic spread like wildfire. Every admiral, every scientist, every minister argued in fear. Reports came from the outer systems. Fleets gone missing, colonies wiped clean. Sensor ghosts appearing and vanishing in seconds. The name Valkyrie was now forbidden to speak in public. The Emperor of the Designation Empire sat in his dark throne room, eyes glowing faintly with anger. "This cannot continue," he hissed. "One human ship cannot destroy my empire. I want it hunted down and torn apart." His chief scientist bowed. "We've analyzed the data, my Emperor. Their weapon, it is not energy. It is absence. It consumes energy, gravity, and even time itself. It doesn't kill, it erases." The Emperor slammed his fist on the armrest. "Then find a way to stop it." The scientist hesitated. "We tried. Every time we scan the human ship, our machines fail. It's as if the ship doesn't exist in our reality." The Emperor leaned forward. "Then bring me something that can." Meanwhile, in the quiet darkness of deep space, Reyes stood before a hologram of Earth, or what used to be Earth. A silent blue sphere surrounded by lines of data and memory. Mara approached him quietly. "Captain," she said. "You should rest." Reyes shook his head. "No, not until it's over." She hesitated, then asked softly, "Do you ever regret it? Using this power?" He looked at her. "Regret?" "Yes," she said. "We've already erased millions, maybe. We're no better than them." Reyes was silent for a moment. Then he said, "The Zerans never feared death. They only understand power. The moment we stop, they'll come again. Humanity won't survive a second time." He turned toward the window, where distant stars burned faintly. "This isn't revenge," he said. "It's remembrance." An alert tone echoed through the bridge. "Captain!" Mara shouted. New signal. A massive energy spike in the Zyran core worlds. Reyes frowned. "Show it." The hologram zoomed in on a distant star system. At its center, a cluster of bright dots blinked rapidly, too organized to be natural. Mara's voice trembled. "They're gathering everything they have. Over 1,000 ships. Looks like they're protecting something." Reyes stared at the display for a long time. "The Emperor," he said quietly. "He's making his last stand." He turned to his crew. "Prepare the jump. We finish this here and now?" Mara nodded, her hands shaking slightly as she entered the coordinates. "Quantum drive ready, sir?" Reyes looked at the image of the Empire's capital world, bright, proud, and cruel. "Let's make history," he whispered. The Valkyrie began to glow again, light bending and twisting around it. The stars blurred, and in a flash of blue light, the ship vanished from existence. The final battle was coming. The Valkyrie came out of the jump above the Zyran homeworld, a massive, glowing planet of silver cities and stormy blue oceans. From orbit it looked peaceful, but every inch of that world had been built on blood. Now the Empire's heart was exposed, alarms filled the sky. Hundreds of defense satellites powered up, their energy signatures burning bright like tiny suns. In seconds, the space around the planet filled with ships, more than Reyes had ever seen. It was the entire Imperial fleet. On the command deck of the flagship Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Vorek stood beside the Emperor himself. The old alien wore black armor, carved with golden symbols of conquest. His voice was deep and heavy, echoing through the control chamber. So, the last human comes to die. Vorex looked at the hologram of the tiny human ship floating in space before them. Your Majesty, permission to attack? The Emperor nodded once. Destroy it. Let the galaxy watch the death of the last Terran. Inside the Valkyrie, Captain Reyes and his crew watched as thousands of red blips surrounded their position. Lieutenant Mara whispered, They've brought everything, sir. The entire Empire. Reyes said nothing. He stood with his hands behind his back, eyes locked on the planet below. How long until the field is charged? He asked calmly. 3 minutes, replied the engineer. But Captain, if we use full power, the ship might not survive. Reyes smiled faintly. Then let's make it count. The first volley came from the Zyrans. A storm of plasma and missiles streaked through space, lighting up the darkness. The Valkyrie didn't move. It simply shimmered, and the storm vanished before reaching it. The Zyrans fired again. This time, the space around the human ship rippled like water. Every blast that touched it folded inward, disappearing into nothing. On the Zyran flagship, chaos spread. It's absorbing our attacks, shouted the weapons officer. Keep firing. Vorex roared. It must have limits. But deep down, even he knew. This was no ordinary weapon. Back on the Valkyrie, the hum of the engine grew louder. Blue light filled the bridge, soft but powerful. Mara turned to Reyes. Field ready, sir. Reyes looked at his crew. The last humans alive. Begin transmission. A moment later, his voice echoed across the Empire's communication network, reaching every ship, every station, every screen. This is Captain Elias Reyes of the Terran ship Valkyrie. 30 years ago, your Empire burned our worlds and called it peace. Today, we end that lie. The Emperor's image appeared on the main screen, his golden eyes blazing with fury. Human, he growled. You think you can destroy a 1,000-year empire with one ship? Reyes met his gaze, calm and steady. No, Emperor. I'm not destroying it. I'm erasing it. And with that, he gave the order. Activate Helios. The stars went dark. For a moment, everything, time, sound, energy, is froze. The Valkyrie became a sphere of pure light, brighter than any sun. A wave of blue energy spread outward, silent and smooth. Every Ziran ship it touched disappeared. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Vorex stared in horror as his fleet vanished one by one. Shields failing. All systems offline. Your Majesty, shouted the crew. The energy is reaching the surface. The Emperor stood tall, eyes wide but defiant. I am the Empire, he roared. I will not. The light swallowed him before he could finish. In seconds, the great capital of the Ziran Empire was gone. Cities, towers, oceans, erased from existence. The planet itself began to fade, its mass breaking apart into glowing dust, and then silence. When the wave cleared, there was nothing left but a single ship, the Valkyrie, floating where an entire world had once been. Inside, alarms flashed red. The void engine overloaded. The hull cracked and flickered. Mara shouted, Core's collapsing. We can't hold it, Captain. Reyes smiled faintly. It's all right. He looked at the view of empty space, peaceful, quiet, and finally free. Mission complete, he whispered. The ship's systems began to fail. One by one, lights dimmed, until only the captain's console remained glowing. Reyes placed his hand on it. For Earth, he said softly. Then, in a final flash of white light, the Valkyrie disappeared, just as the enemy world had. Hours later, deep scanners from distant systems detected a strange energy wave fading in space. Where the Zyran Empire had once ruled, now there was nothing. No signals, no survivors, no trace of a once great power. The galaxy fell silent. Stunned and afraid, whispers began to spread between traders and soldiers. A lone human ship came from the dark. It erased an empire and vanished. No one knew where it went. Some said it destroyed itself. Others believed it still roamed the stars, watching, waiting. But everyone agreed on one thing: the Empire had laughed at a lone human ship. And the galaxy never laughed again. The galaxy was quiet. No lights of war blinked in the dark. No engines hummed. No fleet roared across the stars. The Ziran Empire, once proud and unstoppable, was gone, erased. Somewhere far from the remnants of the Empire, a faint signal drifted through space. It was weak, almost lost among the stars, but it carried a message from a voice that had become legend. "This is Captain Elias Reyes of the Terran ship Valkyrie. We asked for peace. You gave us ashes. Now the galaxy will remember humans, not for how we lived, but for how we fought." No one knew where the Valkyrie was. Some scanners reported faint blips, but they vanished before confirmation. Others said it had joined the black void of space itself, traveling between stars unseen. The survivors of the Ziran Empire were scattered, lost, and silent. They whispered of the human ship that had come alone and struck down a 1,000-year empire with nothing but a single idea: that humans would never be enslaved. On distant planets, alien species debated what had happened. Some called it magic, some called it technology beyond understanding, but all agreed it was terrifying, and all agreed on one name: Valkyrie. Meanwhile, aboard the Valkyrie, Captain Reyes and his crew drifted in silence. The ship had survived the destruction of the Empire, but barely. Systems were failing, lights flickered, and the hum of the void engine was weak. Mara sat beside him, staring at the stars. "Captain, do you think we did the right thing?" she asked softly. Reyes looked at her, tired but calm. "We didn't start this war. The Zirans did. They burned our worlds, destroyed our people, and laughed at our weakness. This was survival. And a warning." She nodded, still uneasy. "But the cost? Millions erased. Countless lives lost," he sighed. "It's true. War always has a cost. But peace has a price too, and humanity will not pay it again." The ship floated in the darkness, carrying the last human survivors. Their mission was complete. The Empire was gone. Their colonies would never be burned again. Yet the universe had changed. The galaxy had learned fear. The stories of the lone human ship spread faster than light. Traders whispered it in ports. Pilots shared it in the dark. And even the smallest species learned the lesson: do not underestimate humanity. Reyes looked at the holographic display of Earth, a memory now, bright but empty. He whispered, "We will rebuild, slowly, quietly, but we will survive." A sudden ping echoed through the bridge. A signal, almost too faint to detect. Reyes leaned forward. "It's coming from—" "Nowhere," said Mara, eyes wide. Reyes smiled faintly. "Then let it remain a ghost. Let them wonder. Let them remember." He tapped the console and sent one final transmission into the galaxy. Not a threat, not a warning, but a message of human endurance. "We are few, but we are strong. We will never bow again. Remember us, and never laugh at the human spirit." The message floated through the stars, fading but never gone. Somewhere someone would find it. Somewhere some species would remember. The Valkyrie drifted farther into the unknown. Its engine silent, its hull dark, it became a legend, a shadow moving among the stars. Sometimes it appeared near systems ruled by arrogance and pride. Sometimes it vanished before a warning could be delivered. Generations would speak of it, a story told in whispers. A lone human ship appeared when empires grew too proud, and vanished before they could laugh. Back in the remnants of the Ziran fleets, commanders spoke in hushed voices. The humans. "They're gone?" "No," said another, shivering. "They are still out there, waiting." And in every corner of the galaxy, beings who had once underestimated humanity now remembered one truth: the human spirit could not be broken. The human will could not be destroyed. And if provoked, humans would fight, not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. And they would win. The stars were quiet again. But somewhere, moving unseen, a black ship carried the last human crew, a single heartbeat of defiance in a galaxy that had once laughed at them. The Empire had fallen. The galaxy had learned, and humanity's story was far from over. The Empire laughed at a lone human ship, but the galaxy never laughed again.